Welcome folks to the Season 2 Necromancer Face Tank Build Guide. We've got 900mm of armor, 120mm smoothbore cannon, and I'm just kidding. This build is made for fresh 60s. It's got no gear requirements, lets you stand in all of the fires, poison, lightning, you don't care. It doesn't require twitch reflexes, it has tons of damage reduction, it lets you stun lock all the things, your corpse explosions go burr, your shadow mages do damage, your blight makes corpses, you can choose any ultimate skill, you got Reaper's Pursuit for mobility, and you're stuck with your tiny Necromancer legs. Good luck! How you stand in all the bad is all of this math that I spent way too much time doing, so now you're forced to see it. The thing that makes this build so strong is these two damage reduction vampiric powers from Season 2, along with Aspect of Might, that every time you activate Bathe in Blood, you will also have Aspect of Might for a total of 44% damage reduction from just these two. Now, if you add it all together, you get a lot of damage reduction. Over here, you go get the resists that now work to take 8% damage from elements. You can get 4% damage from physical because you will hit the armor cap in like no time. I have a whole section on armor cap later, how that works. It's great. You take no damage. Just don't care. Now, the secret tech to not taking damage this season is Bathe in Blood, which makes it so that when you channel a spell, you get this pool of blood around you. During that, you get 30% less damage taken. And then you also get this 30% damage buff, which is huge for just like tapping a button every now and then. Decompose itself does useless damage, but it spawns 1 to 2 handy corpses and, gives you a small damage buff for while you're channeling it, so you don't lose out on all your damage. I have some other notes here. Doesn't matter. But basically, tap Decompose or channel it for 1.5 seconds to get a corpse, get a huge damage buff, and then corpse explosion for days, you win. Alright, skill info, we got Blight here. This procs all of our crowd control reliant effects. It does a moderate amount of damage, it spawns corpses via hewed flesh, and it gives us crowd control modifiers because it applies a slow. Decompose here gives you a bunch of damage reduction, gets your buffs rolling, generates a few corpses, and does useless damage without the unique that comes later. Bloodmist is your oh shit button. It makes corpses, and it will explode them with explosive mist. It lets you move through units, and it's just great quality of life. Because sometimes you're face tanking 3 elites, and you're just sitting there pretty, and then like 2 more show up, and you go, maybe I want to be over there now. And you just push this button, and you're gone, and everything's dead while you're misted. This build works with any ultimate skill. You can grab Bloodwave, Army of the Dead, Bone Storm, whatever your hopes and dreams are, you can follow it. I found that Ultimate Darkness plus Bloodwave is probably the best, but do what you want, it's great. As for skeletons here, we got Reapers to create more corpses, because corpse explosions are damage. Mages do great damage up until like Nightmare 80, and you just keep pushing this button every now and then to keep everything healed and buffed up with bonus damage from the Skeleton Priest healing. And Corpse Explosion, this is our big damage button. We are exploding so many corpses all the time. This is where we stack all of our damage, plus corpse skill, plus corpse explosion skill on our pants. And the damage gets crazy with Black River, which is actually really easy to get this season. You can get Duriel dead and get a Black River, a 925 guaranteed from Duriel. Pretty easy. And I'll explain that later in the guide. It just takes, being a human and talking to other humans. It's really easy. I'll show you. Anyways, our standard opener is to just cast 2 Blights. This groups up mobs. It gets our hewed flesh rolling. And then we just sit there and decompose while we're waiting for corpses to spawn from hewed flesh and decompose itself. And once we see a couple corpses, we corpse explosion, raise dead to get the heal rolling. And that's basically, we do that every time we show up to a new fight. If we don't have any essence, we just open with Decompose and hold it longer and just don't care. We get corpses. And once you get corpse explosions rolling, you'll pretty much have more corpses spawning in a group of mobs than you have that you're actually using. And once your post-opener, once you're already in a fight, let's say you're standing in an event and there's just more mobs spawning, you're already going to have tons of corpses everywhere. So what you do is you just keep spamming Corpse Explosion, but you got to remember, in between your Corpse Explosion spam, you occasionally press, raise dead to keep your mages and skeletons buffed up, otherwise they will die. But with the skill points I have put in, you'll see that they don't really die. Keep your Blight debuff on elites. If they fall off on normals, that's fine, but the slow effect from Blight allows for a lot of your damage to crowd control and other effects that require crowd control to work. So keep Blight up on elites for it to work. You want to tap Decompose every now and then. You can either hold it for, more uptime and more DR and more corpse spawn, or you can just tap it to pop out the blood pool, and you'll have most of the time up on that 30% DR from Bathe aspect, and you'll have 100% DR from the aspect of might. Just a situational awareness thing. When you're standing in a suppressor bubble and there's a bunch of elites hitting you and you're just like not sure what's going on or how much damage you're going to take, you can just kind of hold the Decompose for like 5 seconds to get your situational awareness back, understand the situation, watch how fast your health is ticking up and down. If it's going too quick, or if it's going down too quick, you plop bloodmist. If it's not really mattering, you can just sit there and wait for corpses and then just blow everything up. So if you're ever not sure what to do, pop Decompose and just sit in your blood pool and just think. As for gearing, it's really simple. To clear up to Nightmare 65, go kill a world boss and get a 925 weapon. Guaranteed. They're awesome. And then get max life, get max resistance, and then get 2 to 3 pieces with total armor percent. So total armor percent stacks additively with the armor bonus from disobedience, and then they multiply against whatever your existing armor is. So with just disobedience, you're going to be able to walk into Nightmare 40s and be armor capped like immediately. But to stay armor capped in further nightmares, you need to get 2 to 3 pieces of gear with percent armor on them to be able to stay at armor cap. Because let's say you have 9,000 armor here and Nightmare 45, if you take this armor and walk into a Nightmare 85, you will take like 4 times as much damage. Even though, before even considering that mobs hit harder, you will just by default take 4 times as much damage because your armor is not as effective against a level 85. So you'll just like get one shot and you'll be like, what the hell? I'm super tanky. And then you put on like 1 to 2 pieces of gear with total armor and like they start tickling you again. You need to stay at armor cap and basically don't do nightmare dungeons unless you can keep your armor at values very close to this cap. Even small variations from it can just dramatically increase the amount of damage you take. So just stay armor capped. As for your damage, you can probably do up to about Nightmare 65 if you have a 925 weapon without even thinking about damage on gear. After that, you're going to want a Black River. I mean, 65 you might be a little slow without a Black River or X-Falls, but you can easily do up to 55 with 925, 65 probably, and then 75, 85, your damage is going to be held back without a Black River, but with a Black River you can do all the way up to an 85 and just not even think about damage stats. It's great. It's also great if your friends are ahead of you. Let's say you're playing with people who have, less of a life than you do, and they're just already at higher level nightmares. You can exist in those nightmares and not really slow them down because you just don't take damage. So your damage might not be there, but you're not dead on the floor, so you're doing something. All right, aspect choices. This is all in my D4 planner, but I wanted to give an explanation of like what's going on here. So the mandatory aspects are Blighted, which you probably want to throw on a necklace. I mean, it's technically better on a two-hander, but a shield just makes this build so much easier to pilot, so just grab a shield. Disobedience is just mandatory. You need to hit this to hit your armor cap. You can theoretically hit lower nightmares without disobedience if you have like percent armor on perfect rolls on a bunch of gear, but it's just so easy with disobedience. Might, this is always up. So the 20% DR from this and then the 30% from Bathe aspect, the vampiric power I showed earlier, those two combine to about 44% damage reduction just from those two aspects. Explosive Miss, this is not technically mandatory, but I wouldn't leave home without it. It just casts 5 corpse explosions during your blood mist, which, since corpse explosion is the thing we are buffing the most, it's just a great quality of life. It does lots of damage. It reduces its cooldown. I don't even think about this cooldown reduction. I just assume I use it for the detonation. It's so nice. Now, if you're a fresh 60 and you're just like, okay, what do I do for Paragon and other stuff? And I would highly suggest the Mage package, as I call it. It's just you grab Frenzied Dead, you grab Reanimation, and you grab extra mages, and the first glyph you level up is the mage glyph. And with this, your shadow mages will be doing around 10 to 15k damage if you include the attack speed. They can proc Shadow Blight, which helps your blighted aspect uptime. They're really good. Their single target is great. It makes up for all of the issues with having, AoE dots on the floor and then somebody runs out of them. Well, your mage just blow them up afterwards. It's fine. You don't have to then have to waste a whole cooldown cycle to kill one guy who just walked out of your AoE when everyone else is dead. It's great. For damage options, you have Inner Calm is good, and I'm recommending this because you're not going to use it in any other build, and we stand still a lot with Decompose. We can just stand there and actually benefit from Inner Calm, so you're going to have a bunch of these aspects. Just use them now because you're not going to use them with future builds. And Decay is about 30% damage, maybe a little bit more, so it's technically a little bit better for Inner Calm until you start leveling up mages, and then mages just don't really benefit from Decay compared to how much damage they do on themselves. So Decay falls off. And this is all assuming you have no Paragon XP. If you have a bunch of shadow damage and other stuff, it's fine. For utility, we got Shared Misery. This is really nice. I was testing it in stuff that was actually hitting me pretty hard. I was doing a Nightmare 77, 80 stuff. The fact that I could sit in a suppressor bubble and just have more stuns popping around, I was so tanky. It was great. And this was before I had armor cap. So with armor cap, this just lets you ignore the world. It's great. Void it's nice. You're not going to use this aspect, so you might as well just blow 1 or 2 on your build and mess around with it. It's great. I miss it when I don't have it, but compared to Shared Misery, it's just Shared Misery will actually save you, and Void is just quality of life. And as for uniques, all of these are good. They're all great. You're going to want Howl from the Below. The fear is annoying as hell and should just be removed from the item for the most part, or they need to make you, with fear, you go 10% move speed or something, because them running out of your dots is the worst feeling ever. But what's great about Howl from Below is after you've killed a bunch of mobs, you can look at a corpse that's out of position and then just you use Corpse Explosion on it, and the corpse will get up and run to where it needs to be and then explode. And that's what makes Howl from Below so good. The bonus damage for Corpse Explosion, it's 40%, and it doesn't buff the rest of your damage, so it's about the same damage as Inner Calm or Decay, but the quality of life from having the corpses get up and move is huge. And then for any of these other things, if you get them, just slam them on your build. Ring of Mendel just does a bunch of damage. Black River is one of the things we're actually chasing. We want this. It is amazing. It makes our Corpse Explosions way better and changes how we play a little bit. So you want this, and you can get it from Duriel, and you will get it from Duriel, and I'll show you how. You can do Duriel at 60. It's super easy. I'll explain that in a second. X-Falls also drops from Duriel, and it does a crap ton of damage. So when you're farming Duriel, starting at level 60, you're going to get these. It took me I've done about 20 Duriel runs. I've gotten 2 Black Rivers and 7 X-Falls. So Black River is not the most common drop, but it's not super rare either. Tassets of the Dawning Sky. This is just a tank item. I think if we're actually looking at pushing past Nightmare 80s, our elemental damage resist starts to go down, and this just gives us bonus max resist. So theoretically, we could just stand in fires even harder once in the super late game. But until then, you don't have to worry about it. And Flicker Step, this is fun. We're the only Necromancer build, one of the only Necromancers, I think Blood can also do it, where we just stand in melee range. We don't care, we're just face tanking the world. So, since we're already standing in a bunch of things, we can just press space bar and get 10 seconds of ultimate cooldown if we pass through a bunch of mobs. It is annoying because it makes us move out of our pool of blood, so that was a really bad downside. But in general, in theory, you could just slam a Flicker Step and dash through mobs every now and then just cast a big ult and destroy the world. It's great. I had a lot of fun with it, and in my next build, I'm probably going to be using it because I'm going to continue making a variation of the Black River build. I'll quickly go over some glyph and power stuff. Exclamation, this is how we stay fortified all the time. We're constantly corpse explosioning, so this just gives us 4% fortify every time we explode. It also gives us some damage reduction, which we always love, but it's really just, you get the 20% DR from being fortified all the time because exclamation. It's great. Undaunted, we're choosing this and just throwing it on the Flesh Eater board because it only requires like 27 willpower or 25 willpower to proc, which is 5 nodes versus an intellect thing takes 8 nodes. So we're just slamming this on the Flesh Eater board until we level up our Paragon. It gives you just 10% more damage reduction when you're fortified, and you're always fortified from this. Dead Razor's a trap. Don't get it. It's only useful if you're a super like tier 100 late game minion build and you just want the damage reduction. The actual damage benefit from Dead Razor is like infinitesimal. It sucks. And then the Mage Glyph, this scales your mages really fast, really hard. This is like a level 15 Mage Glyph. It's 10% damage, additive damage to the mage for every intellect lift, and with like 70, that's huge. That's so much damage. And then the resist all elements is actually probably a better damage reduction, or as good of a damage reduction as a perfect Dead Razor in the same spot, because the thing that kills minions the most is not like random melee attacks, it's the standing and fire. So this is probably a better damage reduction than Dead Razor the moment you get the 40 intellect in it. So never go Dead Razor, it's a trap. And as for Vampiric powers, we've got, Bathe in Blood. That's our, bread and butter, damage reduction, big damage. We've got Coven's Fangs. This makes our minions do more damage and apply vulnerable via Vampiric Curse. So once you apply Vampiric Curse, this other Prey on the Weak gives us the ability to benefit from that. And then keep in mind, vulnerable won't be up on every little mob, so we are losing some overall damage. But on elites, where our mobs are like starting to focus, because we've killed all the normal mobs, they're always going to be vulnerable from Coven's Fangs, so good job. And then Flowing Veins is just, more dots. Like, we do dots, and for things that matter, elites, we do 60% more damage to. It's, as I said, not going to be up on everything. And if we eventually remove minions or, don't have as much minion damage, obviously we could just throw in the other Vampiric power that does lucky hit vulnerability and replace Coven's Fangs. Resilience is another of our big damage reductions. I valued this in the calculator on the second page as like 20%, 5% DR, but if you're at like low life, it can be as high as like 50% damage reduction. 40%. 50% means you're dead. So I actually randomly have a bunch of damage while injured, or damage reduction while injured. So when I get to like 35% health, I just like stop taking damage. But the problem is, the moment I get to 36% health, I might just get one shot because I no longer have my damage reduction while injured, so I don't really like relying on it, but it has saved me a bunch when I'm pushing content like way beyond what I should be. So if you want to get your Black River as soon as possible, it's really easy. All you gotta do is farm Living Steel from Helltides. Because Living Steel, every level 100 wants it, and they can't get enough of it. Because every 100 is chasing Harlequin Crest, or as everyone likes to call it, Shaco. Because this is the best item in the game. I mean, it gives +4 ranks to all skills. Like, do I even need to... Like, this is insane. You're not going to get this, most likely. You're not going to try farming this at level 60. But you want loot that drops from the same boss. And the only way to summon that boss is by getting Living Steel from Helltides. And so you start farming Living Steel from Helltides, you go on the Sanctuary Discord, and you go into one of these channels and just say, like, I have 10 Living Steel, give me Duriel, beep boop, and, like, level 100s will come out of the woodwork fighting to be the one that carries you. So you can just take, like, your 10 Living Steel, and you find 2 or 3 other people being carried, and you get 3 Duriel runs for 10 Living Steel is what you should be trying to negotiate for. There are some other bosses involved. You take this Living Steel, you summon Grigori, and he drops Shards of Agony. So you have to kill him twice. So you might get a howl from below while you're killing this guy. There's another boss involved that drops a different material, but nobody cares. They already have 1,000,000 eggs. Don't worry about it. And then you take these Shards of Agony and you go and summon Duriel and stay dead on the floor while somebody else just one-shots the boss. And then you collect Black River, X-Falls Corroded Signet, and like a bunch of other BIS 925. I've got an uber unique in under 20 runs. It's tons of loot. It's all guaranteed 925. The yellow items are 925. I literally have 6 bank alts just to deal with the overflow of gear I'm getting from Duriel that I have to think about. You just do Hell Tides, spend 100% of your cinders on living steel, and people will carry you. And it's not just like you begging, like, please carry me. They want you. They want your living steel. So you're not going to be, some whiny baby. Oh, please carry me through Capstone, man. No, you have something that they desperately want. I know people have run, Duriel 100 times by having people just offering them living steel because they can't do it themselves. And my guild actually does a lot of that. So get your living steel and just get a Black River, and you'll probably have a Black River before you're 70. It's easy. All right, quick recap. Farm your Hell Tides. Go to a world boss the moment you hit 60, or the moment you can get to world tier 4 and just collect the 925 loot from them, because they're just loot pinatas. Join the Discord and to get Duriel carries. It's really easy. Just use the Sanctuary Discord. It's amazing. When you hit 60, you can just slam whatever gear you have and start a Nightmare 30. By around 65, you can get armor capped and then do whatever dungeon equal to your armor cap. So if you only have 9,800 armor, only do Nightmare 55s. And, and so on and so on. You probably need more damage to do 75 and 85s, but meh. And then don't forget to do the Blood Harvests. You get 12 legendaries per run. It's great XP. And I'll try to find a link to some guide on how Blood Harvests are just OP as hell. You can 8-man raid them and just get so much loot. That's another reason I have 6 I think I'm up to 8 bank alts this season. It's so many bank alts. I can't even think about how much loot I have. Alright. So, you got this Black River from this Duriel run. You've started putting points in your Paragon. You're hitting around level 80. You have, your Mage Glyph maxed out. You're working on your Exhumation Glyph. What do you do now? Well, the build will start to fall off around Nightmare 80. Black River will change how you play. You'll find yourself casting Blight a lot more because you've already went through 8,000 corpses in 5 seconds. Your mages will start to do less relevant damage to Black River, so you're probably going to want to start thinking about buffing Black River more. And now is when you want to start considering changing up the build, because this build guide is made for fresh 60s. It's not really going to transition to in-game, and I have a lot more testing I need to do to see how it would work to clear a Nightmare 100, and I'm actually moving on to my next build. So if you want to figure out what other people are doing to make Face Tank work moving forward, join the Sanctuary Discord at discord.gg/Diablo4, and in the Necromancer chat section there's a forum, and you can join the Face Tank forum and just find out what other people are talking about. These are 2 posts randomly from there. And as an example of changing up the build, we have what I'm calling the Ultimate Corpse package here, where you use the fact that Army of the Dead, it summons 21 skeletons, and each one of them will leave a corpse behind when it dies, and they can proc hued flesh. So you're going to get 25 corpses per Army of the Dead. If you use the 25 corpses, which is great already, to then produce blood orbs when they're consumed by Embalmer, and then fast blood to consume those blood orbs to decrease your ultimate cooldown, you start getting really quick ultimates. And then if you throw in a flicker step, you're just spamming Army of the Dead. This is basically my next build is going to look like this. It's going to use a different version of Corpse Explosion. I'm going to go for some kind of ridiculous crit build, but it's basically this. And look forward to my guide in the future. But for now, I'm pretty much done testing Face Tank. I'm looking to get some more exponential multipliers, so I'm probably going to go through some kind of bastardized Infinimus build next. And, try out other things. One of the ideas I had was to use Decompose and give it attack speed and make it spawn a bajillion corpses, and it doesn't scale with attack speed, so Blizzard ruined my dreams. I spent way too much time theory crafting things like this. I didn't test the attack speed stuff, but try things. Talk to the community. Figure out what you can do. And if you're looking for an in-game build that will definitely scale to the late game, I highly suggest you join the Sanctuary Discord, because there are multiple really good build guides written by Chetis, Sirach, and Deconic that do scale to Nightmare 100s. So Sanctuary Discord's an amazing place. We have a bunch of places to find parties, trade stuff. There's active class discussions. You'll see me in the Necro chat a lot. There's voice chats. You can create your own channel. We have community vetted Necromancer guides. So like all of these guides are in the pinned comments in the Necromancer chat. All of them are good because the community has tried them. They're not just like some random guide on the internet. These are things that are actually tried and true. And the build guide writers, they're all in chat all the time. I mean, I just like searched by name, and the most recent, I looked at the top 5 most recent chats by the guide writers, and you have, you know, Chetis offering to carry someone. He's the Bone Spear guy. You got Serac. Someone asked him if you can make a clip, and he said, sure, I'll make you one tonight. And this was, you know, in the last 2 hours, both of these posts. And then Deconic here, he's helping somebody, you know, learn how to do his essence with whatever build he's running. I mean, it could be Bloodshirt, it could be minions. He might not have some kind of generator, and he's like, hey, you're doing good. So everyone here is really active. It's a great community, generally really positive. It has amazing mods. I don't know what to say, but you want to join the Discord community. You probably found this video through Discord, so I'm preaching to the choir, but it's great. You should join. And if you need Duriel carries, there's a channel here for boosts and services. That's where you find people. Join the Discord. It's amazing, and I'll see you in the next guide.